Hello, my name is Lee Eachus, and I'm the Director of Undergraduate Studies and a faculty member at the University of Kentucky in the College of Fine Arts and the Department of Arts Administration. And I have a student here with me.
Yeah, a former student. I'm Logan McDonald. I just graduated from the University of Kentucky with my Bachelor of Arts in Arts Administration, and then my minor was in theater.
So, Logan, I'm really interested. I know that we got to catch up over the summer a little bit over a lunch because you received a very important award, the first student to receive this award. But I know that life was kind of moving in lots of different directions for you. So why don't you just tell me how things are going right now?
Definitely. I think everyone's life is a little crazy right now. I mean, at this point, we've kind of accepted that we're in the situation that we're in, and we're kind of finding new ways to move forward. And so I graduated in May, and obviously things were very different in May, and we didn't walk for graduation. And there were a lot of missed goodbyes and a lot of friends that, as you're wrapping up college, that you kind of spend the last couple of months with, and then you don't see anymore, unless you make a specific time to go see them. And so I graduated. I was really at the time trying to figure out, what's next? Am I going to do an apprenticeship? Are there going to be apprenticeships available in theater? Because I think moving throughout undergrad, you kind of have this idea that you graduate, and if you're going into the administrative part of the theater world, you're going to have to do an apprenticeship to kind of transition to that next phase. And so a lot of the apprenticeships were being canceled for obvious reasons. I mean, theaters aren't producing anything right now, and if they are, it's virtual. And so there's not really any need for an apprentice staff or intern company. And so I decided that, I did a previous internship at Steppenwolf Theater Company in Chicago, and I decided that I really liked Chicago, and if I couldn't be involved in the theater world, I was going to at least have some type of control over what was next. And I thought moving to Chicago was the next answer. And so I found a place and moved to Chicago, and I ended up getting a job through a temp agency to work remotely. And at the time I moved to Chicago, I didn't have a job, and I didn't realize I was going to be working remotely. So the past couple of months have been very interesting. I think it's about the community that we're with and not so much the place we're at. And I'm realizing that more over the past couple of months than I ever have before. And so though I love Chicago and I love the opportunities that are available in the city of Chicago, I don't have a community right now. And so I think looking back on undergrad, I miss that. I miss having those friends, that sense of community. And even in social distance, world and not really meeting face to face with anyone, we still have our community of people. We still have those people we see and those lunches we have, and I don't have that in Chicago. And so now I'm really realizing, okay, what's next is not so much the place I'm at, it's the people I surround myself with and the work that I do and the decisions that I make to make the best of the situation.
That's a really mature perspective, Logan. I don't think there's three things that what you said that really stood out to me that I think connect back to arts administration really specifically. The first is this idea, and it's a cheesy quote, but it's something that I genuinely believe in. I mean, the quote, bloom where you're planted, right? That it's more about you taking the initiative to find what motivates you and what inspires you. As you get older, this will certainly become more important. But from my own experiences, Lexington was not the plan. And we're here now, and it's less about this idea of, I want to be in a big city doing this kind of work. It's more about being in any city doing the work that's important. And then this idea of a community, I guess I hadn't really thought about that, but I can see why that's especially tough now for students who've just recently graduated. But that ties back to that quote, right? The idea that it's less about where you're doing the work and who you're doing the work for and who you're doing the work with. I'm really glad to hear that you're discovering that. I know you mentioned a little bit that it was COVID-19 and the quarantine experience has sort of been the onset for that realization. Is there anything else that has been sort of made you realize that that's more important to you right now at this stage in your young professional career?
Well, I think anyone in the artistic field, be it visual or performing arts, do it because of some type of connection they have. We get some type of connection some type of community through our art form, regardless of what aspect you're working in that art form. I was never really an actor, more always on the stage management or administrative side of things, and I never had the desire to go be an actor. Being put in a position to where you no longer have those things that you do day to day and that community that you have really presents what was important about them. And so, I'm thinking about who might be watching this. If you're a high school student thinking about arts administration or thinking about something within the College of Fine Arts, okay, why are you doing it? And I'm sure everyone who's thinking about the next step has these long, let's say 10-year goals. Okay, in 10 years, I want to be living in New York City, working as an actor, or I want to be working as a visual artist at a Chicago Art Institute, you name it. Okay, whatever the dream is, you have to find a balance between not giving up on that dream and being ambitious and doing your part to step outside of your comfort zone and find those opportunities. But you also have to take time and appreciate what you have around you and the moment that you're in, not always look for the next opportunity or the next moment, right? Because when you get to college, there are so many opportunities that you have. And you should take advantage of as many as you can, and learn about what's out there, but also realize that what you're doing right now in this moment is just important as what the next thing is going to be. And so while you should always have, your eye on what's next, really submerge yourself in what you're currently doing, because looking at it from the other side, now that I'm in Chicago, okay, well, this was the plan. 2 years ago, if someone asked me what was after college, I would have said, oh, I'm moving to Chicago. So I'm here. And now, I'd give anything to be in rehearsal at, for a show through the Department of Theater and Dance. I'd give anything just to be chilling on a couch with some friends that I made, or, really soaking those moments up that I didn't appreciate in the moment. I think just the importance of relationships and the value that they bring in the moment can't be recreated. And so I don't want to get all cliche and philosophical and whatnot, but it really is important. And I value that so much now on the other side that I didn't realize in the moment in undergrad.
That's another really great point. And I don't know if I've said this in any of the classes I've had with you, but I'm always telling students that at some point, the people that you are in class with will no longer be your peers, and they will actually be your colleagues, and they'll be the professional network that you build, or from which you build your professional network. And it's don't be too hard on yourself about that. It's really hard for us to see. It's this concept of hot, cold empathy. It's really hard for us to understand the impact of something until it's affecting us directly. But I'm so glad that you're sharing that with people, because it's so important. That's one of the really important values of the university setting, regardless of where you are and regardless of major. But I also think within arts administration, we're so small that you sort of experience this cohort with your classmates, where you move through 3 or 4 years with the same people, and being aware of those relationships and what value they add to your everyday life, but also what value they're going to add to your professional career. Such good advice. And I appreciate you sharing that with people, because I don't think I've ever heard a student really reflect on that, because it's a tough lesson to learn, right? But it's a really important one.
Well, and no one else can really tell you that, like you can watch this and I can say that that's what that feels like. But in the moment, you're like, you don't recall this conversation. You don't recall that someone said, on the other side of this, looking back, appreciate the moment that you're in. And I think that brings up another point, that college is very linear. And I say that in the fact that everything's structured somewhat. You're going to take 120 credit hours at a minimum to get your degree. The exact classes you take to get there, that's your choice. You have some type of choice to do that. But you're going to be in the same place with relatively the same people for the next 4 years. And a lot of the decisions that you have are kind of already made for you, or kind of spoon-fed in a certain extent through your advisor. Saying, if you want to do this, you need to do X, Y, and Z. Well, you graduate in May, and in my instance, I literally got a piece of paper mailed to me. There's no confetti cannon. There's no, congrats, you did it. Your life's so much different now. And you can somewhat realize that when you're in undergrad, but now that you're on the other side, like, you have to take the connections that you had with people and the network that you built and the skill set that you built for yourself while you were in college, and apply that moving forward. You made the decision to go to college whenever you graduated high school. okay, now you've got to make the decision on what's next graduating from college. And there's no right or wrong answer. I think as long as you're fulfilling what you need yourself, whether be it professionally or personally, I think there's not a right or wrong answer. And as I sit here now, not working in an artistic field, under those circumstances, I'm trying to find other ways to fulfill that. Like I said, there's not any right or wrong answer on how that's supposed to work. You just have to hope that the people that you've worked with and the community that you've built will support you along the way. And I think that is something that I was very fortunate for in arts administration because we were so small. Even within the College of Fine Arts, you're less than 1,000 students in a university of 30,000. We are a tight-knit family and community who experience the same things. One of the benefits of having that is that you do make close relationships with both professors and students. And so moving forward, you're very thankful for that.
So tell me a little bit, you mentioned one of the things that was really hard for me moving into arts administration as a career path was something that you mentioned just in your response there about this concept of being fulfilled by the art form that you were formerly a part of. And I always say that it's not that I can't dance anymore. It's that I made a decision not to dance anymore. My relationship with that art form has changed. It's not that it's gone for forever. It's just changed. So having moved to Chicago, how are you keeping yourself fulfilled, right, by your art form? Are you engaging with stuff online? Participating with Steppenwolf at all?
I think at the beginning of the pandemic, I was like trying to look for anything to have that connection because it was being ripped away, I felt like. And so I was looking for any opportunity to connect with someone. But I think right now, some of the people I work with in my former internships have more time on their hands now. They're not going to the office. They're not producing any theater. And if they're fortunate enough to still be employed with that company, they're finding a lot more time on their hands. So reaching out and being able to connect with someone you worked with before, further conversations that you wish you'd previously had, just by reaching out to a former coworker or another intern that I worked with has been pretty fulfilling. And you find that, you're not the only one in the situation. Everyone is in this situation of not being able to fulfill that artistic need in the way that we once knew it as. And so I think just being engaged in that manner, and my current position as an appraisal coordinator, like I said, it's a temp job. I've thought about it as almost like a stage management job. And I don't know if there's any correlation there much at all, but telling myself that helps a little bit. As a coordinator, any type of coordinator, you're talking with a lot of different parties and you're making a lot of different people happy and kind of turning the wheels. And that's what a stage manager does. So I think about it in that manner, and it gets me from day to day. And I know that, things won't always be like this. It's all the attitude that we approach it with. And so I think just finding those parallels help.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's funny because I mean, it could be a little bit of a coping mechanism, right? You could be telling yourself this so that it feels like you're getting some fulfillment from some arts administration-y fulfillment from a job that is not arts administration related. But also, I think it actually is very parallel. Professor Schenberg, or Jill, I don't know how you address her, who's another faculty member in the Department of Arts Administration, is constantly talking about this process of this person just needs to be stage managed, right? Which is very much about interacting with lots of different people and trying to understand on the most basic level what it is that they need, how you can provide that for them, or at least negotiate the situation to where their expectation changes. So I think it's certainly parallel. And it's funny that you say it just because I hear it so much, this concept of stage managing. And for people who've moved from an artistic career into arts administration, they'll use the phrase, I'm stage managing this person, totally unrelated concepts. But again, the principle applies, right?
I mean, we can't control the situation we're in. You can only decide how you move forward, and the choices that you make. And so if you choose to have that glasses half full attitude or this is what I need, so I'm going to tell myself that this is what I'm doing and do that to a certain extent, there's something to be said for that. Even in your work life or professional or personal life, being able to do that is very helpful.
You said something about not being able to control the circumstance. I think so often something that I observe with a lot of students is this desire to be in control of every single thing. But I think learning that we aren't 100% in control, coronavirus pandemic or not, is such a valuable lesson because it helps us. And we talked about this a lot in 450, reading the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Expletive For those of you interested in reading the book on your own, who may be watching this video, like the concept of being able to prioritize and like letting those things that you prioritize, really spending time focusing on your values, what really matters to you, and not just what you think is supposed to matter to you. I've had the privilege, of course, to see you over the course of 3.5 years. What was that process like for you of really discovering what your values were? I mean, you obviously have been able to accept that you aren't in control of everything, but have you found it easier for you to like find what your values are and what makes you get out of bed every morning, even though you may not be in a job that you had planned?
I think you always are figuring that out. I think that changes too. But I think at large, I've always felt like I needed to contribute to something larger than myself or larger than the situation that I'm in. I need to work on projects that allow someone else to do their job or someone else to be happy or accomplish a goal. And so I find that, being able to find ways that I can help someone else out or check in and just say, hey, how are you doing? Or can we talk? Or what's going on in your life fulfills me even outside of the artistic world. And in my current role, I'm finding ways to do that. Going back to the controlling of the situation that you're in and being able to make small choices. Whenever we sat down and we have our one-on-ones talking about internships before we do them, because you have to complete 2 internships. You can't always control where you get accepted at for internship. You can have goals and you can work on your resume and you can work on your cover letter and we can sit down and we can have mock interviews, but you can't always control of where you're going to get accepted or get that internship. And so you can either choose to say, oh, it's the end of the world. I didn't get accepted there. I'm not going to graduate on time. And I think it's easy to like tell yourself that in the moment and let it be the end of the world. And sure, maybe it can be the end of the world for a couple of hours or even a day, but the next day is still going to roll around. And how you choose to move forward from that, about finding a new organization or finding other ways to move forward and build your skill set and apply what you're learning to a practical experience is something very important, because I've applied to so many jobs that I've not heard back from, and I'm immediately getting, initially you get very angry. You're like, well, why didn't that recruiter email me back? They should at least like respond. And I think it's easy to feel entitled, but I think humbling yourself and saying, hey, there are a lot of other people in this situation. There are a lot of other people who want to intern at this arts organization. What am I doing to get there? If not now, what can I do to apply next year or even after I graduate, or what connections am I making? If there are 2 books that you should read before starting any degree program, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, and then The Subtle Art of Not Giving an Explicit, I think really allows you to work well on a team and understand that it's okay to have your values and what's important to you, but you can't control what other people's values are and what they think of you always. So you have to learn to accept and move forward. And I think reading those 2 books and having those 2 like lesson points to move forward from and kind of refer back to makes undergrad so much easier. Okay, great. You can't control something. Move forward. What can you control?
I think the things that you're talking about, Logan, are all really important. And I've never seen my job as a faculty. Like, I remember having this very weird experience when I was an adjunct for the very first time, trying to figure out this. I'm not good at this. I knew at first I was not a very good teacher, because I was trying to do all of the things that I thought other people were supposed to. Like, I had seen other people teach and I was thinking, well, what did I like about my faculty members in undergrad? Or what did I like about what Dr. Shane did? And I would just try to duplicate that. And I quickly realized if I would continue the path of just what I thought was the right way to teach or what I thought was the right way to be an educator, I was going to drive myself nuts. As I was negotiating, like, how do I make this job meaningful to me? It was more about, like, I love interacting with students. How do I help them become more sound in decision-making? And so often it was always like, I need somebody to tell me what to do. At some point, you're going to be the adult in the room and you actually have to make those decisions for yourself. So for me, it was about like extrapolating like the common themes that I see across students in a specific year or, a cohort, and like helping them negotiate that space.
from a student's perspective, I don't think you can make anything happen for a student.
Yeah.
You couldn't make anything happen for me. Like, it all has to come from me or another student, but your wisdom and your guidance and you taking the time to talk with students and say, almost sometimes just validate what they're feeling is okay. And other people are feeling that too, but how do we work around that?
Well, Logan, thank you so much for this conversation. It's so nice to see students doing so well and to see them so well adjusted to an unpredictable life. And thank you too for starting my morning so inspirationally. I've really appreciated it.
Absolutely. I'm so glad we were able to meet. And I hope that this conversation helps future students kind of make that decision to take the next step, whatever that may be. But I really hope that this gives them something. So thank you.